Okay, Mad World, let's talk about Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. Let's not talk about each round in terms of what happened. We know that Tank landed knockdown punch in round two. We know that he stopped Garcia in round seven. Let's look at some of the reasoning behind some of the activity and what caused it. One of the things that Tank Davis started off with was the foot placement to begin with. And you saw this in round one. This is the advantage of making a fight go slow, changing the pace, and basically fighting on his terms. We saw Garcia in round two try to change this, but he opened up and got exposed. So let's look at why he got exposed. In round one, Davis is trying to establish the footwork, and he's doing a good job with it. It's three things he's doing with this foot placement as a southpaw. He is posting his right hand toward Garcia's glove, or he is throwing a jab. That's one and two. And while throwing that jab or posting his hand, he is stepping his right leg up toward Garcia's foot, his left leg, or slightly outside of it. And he's slightly moving in. But the one thing he's doing is controlling the angle. Because boxers tend to use a much more bladed stance, Garcia's power alignment is slightly misaligned. And this is going to play out in round six. And you notice that Davis is able to establish this, for basically all 7 rounds. And you start noticing that because Garcia is complying, Davis can start feinting. He's throwing one shot at a time. But the biggest thing, he's controlling the timing of the fight. He's making it a slow one punch for one punch type of fight, which favors a power puncher. Keep in mind that some of your best power punchers in all of history have low outputs because they have the power to support it. The fight wasn't super exciting as much as the build-up was, but I think the knockdown and the finish took care of, the back and forth excitement that people were expecting. I think they were happy with the outcome. Now, in round 6, I thought that Garcia landed a punch that could have hurt Davis or even knocked him down or even knocked him out had he been in the correct alignment. And what happened was, because Tank again was controlling that outside leg, when Garcia threw that punch towards Davis's head, his rear foot started coming off the ground, so he was losing that connection. And by the time the punch landed, it was pretty much an arm punch. And because Tank was controlling that leg, Garcia's power alignment was facing the audience. Garcia had to come all the way across his body to throw that punch. So he overextended himself, and by the time the force got there, it was somewhat dissipated. Now, from Tank's reaction, had Garcia been in alignment, I believe he would have been able to hurt him or knock him out, or at least change the complexion of the fight. I think he would have gave Tank something to think about. I never realized how technical Tank could really be. And one of the things he kept doing also that was a bit of a pattern was he would allow Garcia to come in. And when he came in, he would counter to the nearest target or the open target. And you saw that play out in round 2 and round 7. Garcia needs to work on is that it's probably a habit whether he's fighting a southpaw or orthodox, but he pulls straight back after some type of gesture, some type of attack, a type of a combo, pull straight back. And he has a bit of a foot drag on his jab. So he tends to step in, throw the jab, and step out. All right. So he doesn't step out with the back leg. He steps out with the leg that he stepped in with. So he's basically in range to get hit. He's still in the same range. I am sure that they scouted this a little bit because it was such a habit that you would notice that Tank would just try to counter off of it. And the other thing he does is when he moves the back leg first, he only takes 1 or 2 steps and then he stops as if he's going to counter or if he's looking to take impact. And so he had no other defensive strategies with his footwork. Again, all these things together make him a very predictable target. And so all you have to do is build your game, and that's exactly what Tank did just utilized a lot of fight IQ and dictated the fight in a minor way through 7 rounds. Little minor adjustments, basically in round 1, setting everything up. In round 2, you saw him look like he was a little frustrated or flustered or whatever because he started grabbing Garcia. Let me explain that to you. He came in with the deliberate idea of setting that footwork. When Garcia started throwing those combos and bouncing around, he wasn't going to be able to track all that movement. So he started grabbing in order to slow him down so he could get back to what he was doing. Did some of those punches land? I absolutely believe they did. I thought there was at least one, might have been an uppercut in round 2 that hurt Davis. But since he was looking to grab anyway, it worked out for him. And I think the only reason he even got caught with that punch is because he was trying to grab. But I don't think he was concerned about that. I think he was concerned more about his mission. And that mission was, I got to slow this guy down. The corner should have been able to say, look here, Garcia, even though you got knocked down, that was working. That movement was causing him to panic because it was only like one punch that really landed. And I know the commentators were like, oh, there was 4. Let me tell you, whatever the other 3 punches were, Tank had to be moving backwards to land those punches, and those punches were ineffective. It was the one coming forward that made a difference. But I think that if Garcia had just become a little bit more strategical with what he was doing with that movement, he would have beaten Tank. And speaking on that body shot worked because in the midst of that combo, in the midst of that exchange, Garcia was turning into Tank. And so when Tank countered, he got hit, but he turned into the punch with Garcia and landed his punch to the body, and that amplified the force. So a lot of people looking at it saying, it was a ghost punch or a punch didn't really hurt or didn't have the real impact. It hurt. Anytime 2 objects are moving toward one another, there's going to be some type of force created, some type of momentum gained, some type of energy and impact exchanged. And when you're talking about a sensitive body part like the liver, man, it creates a devastating effect. And if you've never felt one, you just don't know. You have no idea what Garcia was going through. I don't want to see all these videos trying to teach you how to do a body shot come Monday morning on YouTube or whatever your favorite platform is. The one thing that most people forget is that he was putting money in the bank. Starting in round 3, Tank was just throwing a lot of body shots to really set that up. And so it's just body shot after body shot, money in the bank, and then boom. They made a reference to Oscar De La Hoya fighting Bernard Hopkins. That same thing happened with the body shot. They also forget the same thing happened, that Bernard was putting in the work over 11 rounds. And if you go look at that Hopkins De La Hoya fight, it's the same strategy that Hopkins did, that when he dropped him, he kept setting it up over and over. Same strategy over and over. Same strategy over and over. So it wasn't a random body punch, and it wasn't lucky. He was trying to land it for 11 rounds. That's the advantage of boxing, is they have plenty of time to get their work done. Good fight overall. And as far as the build up to the fight, everything was even. It matched. It made sense. It wasn't like this great build up and then this boring fight, or no build up and an amazing fight. So everything matched. It made sense. Want to see what the pay-per-view numbers look like. Want to see what it looks like for Tank Davis going forward, who he fights, and Ryan Garcia changing weight classes, moving up. Like to see what all this means in the longer scope of things, to see how it all gets played out in the greater narrative. I am Coach Sess, and you've had words with the Mad Coach.